Hey everyone, Glenn Victor here, host of the podcast Dare Me. If you're about to tune into our program, we just wanted to give you fair warning that if you're easily triggered by mention of specific drugs, you may want to think twice about watching our program. Also, if you're easily offended by strong language, again, you may want to reconsider watching our program. We don't hold any punches. We keep it real, and it can get raw sometimes on this show. So just wanted to give you fair warning. We do hope you tune in, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, Glenn Victor here again. Hey everyone, Glenn Victor here again. Hey everyone, Glenn Victor here.
There we go.
Hey everyone, it is Glenn Victor again. Welcome to the Dare Me podcast. We are coming to you live here on Facebook, and I know we're out there on YouTube and all the things. We're expanding the platforms that we're going live on, and I'm coming to you from Sacramento, California. And we also have my partner in crime, Dean Baker, live with us. He's the man handling everything behind the scenes and all the graphics and the audio and the camera shots. And Dean is live in Orlando, Florida. How is it going out there in Orlando today, Dean?
The temperature is a nice 60 degrees today.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
Cooled down.
It's
not going to last long.
I saw on the news a little chillier there today. Here in Sacramento, it is a rainy Sunday, kind of rainy and maybe about, 55 degrees or so outside. But tomorrow, as I'm sure most people know, is the first day of spring. And I'm so happy about that. Looking forward to the weather getting a little bit warmer, and of course excited that it stays light out now longer. We switched back over to daylight saving time last weekend. So anyways, you got one guy out here on the West Coast and Dean on the East Coast, and hopefully we'll have some people chime in live today from other parts of the country. I know that boy G down in Miami talked about jumping on here with us live today. And maybe we'll even get some people from up in the Midwest, in Michigan and Detroit City and places like that. People I know who, said they'd be tuning in today. So anyways, I've really been looking forward to this week's show. This is, in fact, episode 2 of the program. And today is Sunday, March 19th, 2023. And we did the first episode last week, which we, of course, were really looking forward to. Had a little anxiety about it, and, it was a fun show to do. We kind of laid the foundation and some groundwork for, things we were going to be talking about. We actually had some live interaction with some people that were watching and listening to the show, which was great. And again, we hope to have, some people join in the conversation on today's show as well. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the program, kind of maybe the second half of it. But right out of the gate, I kind of wanted to jump into some topics that, this show is really all about. And like I said, I was kind of looking forward to this week's edition of the show, even more than I was last week, because we're just going to go right into addressing, some of the practical things about this show that we're even doing it for. So, yeah, this particular program, the Dare Me program, is really all about trying to help people who maybe became addicted to opiates or opioids or really any type of drug. We're going to focus on opioids and opiates, but people who may be caught up in addiction in any fashion. And certainly the program will be entertaining for anyone that may want to view it or listen to it, and we'll be talking about a variety of different things. Mainly, though, we're trying to get to people who are still caught up in that madness and maybe looking for a way out. And so I was talking with Dean a little bit before we went live today about, my motivation to even do this program. And as some of y'all know who have watched some of the other stuff we put out there about this program, personally, I struggled with that whole opiate thing. And I was hooked on them damn pain pills and opiates for 9 years, but I do have over a couple of years clean off of them now. And so I've decided to share my story and do it in part through this program. And it takes a lot to get vulnerable and, and put yourself out there, like I am. I'm just at a point in my life where I feel like I have no right to keep to myself what happened with me, what I went through, and how I was somehow miraculously, in my mind, able to pull myself out of it. And turn my life around and get out of that madness, because a lot of people don't, unfortunately. Last week on the program, we talked a little bit about statistics and how, according to the latest, official government figures, on average, just in the United States, about 220 people die every single day from an opiate overdose. And that's just opiates, opioids, opiates, whatever the hell you want to call them, opes, that's just from opes, okay? That doesn't include other drugs. And so think about that. Just by the time you do the math, by the time we finish this show, which would be, a little over an hour long, 8 to 10 people are going to die from an opiate overdose. So when I say I feel like I have no right to keep to myself what I went through and what happened with me, that's what I mean by that. We've said on here, before and in some of the promos leading up to this program, if we get even one person, one viewer with this program that we might be able to help with some of the information that's shared on here, then it's all worth it. Of course, we hope we get to more than one person and we, begin to attract a big audience as we move forward with this program. But if we can help even one person, then it's all worth it. And so for me, like I said, put myself out there and getting vulnerable, especially with a lot of the social media promos that I've been doing, because I've really been putting myself out there kind of like since past June on social media. And it's all been by design. I've done a lot of crazy stuff, gotten really vulnerable, emotional, excited, and all kinds of different stuff to get people's attention. And, that whole kind of thing to help promote this podcast. And so, with all that said, hence the name Dare Me. We were trying to come up with a cool name for this show. And, there were a couple others that thought about raw and real, kind of like in the disclaimer at the beginning, because we're getting raw on the show and getting real, telling it how it is and all. But those names are used to death out there, like in Central Florida. I know we got viewers from Orlando. You got Real Radio. And, I looked at different podcast names out there. A lot of people like that name Raw. And so I really thought about it a lot. And then, that whole name Dare Me just kind of came to me because, as Dean and I talked a little bit on the program last week, I come from corporate America. I'm retired now from full-time work, although this has become a job now. Believe me, there's a lot of prep work that goes into this whole thing. The show goes by like that, but a lot of work goes into putting this thing on. But when you work in the professional world or the business world or corporate America, I worked in the media, kind of a high-profile profession for like 25 years, and being a spokesperson for, this very conservative company, it takes a little bit of kahunas to put yourself out there the way I am right now. And so that's kind of where this whole dare me, like, yeah, fucking dare me to do it, dare me, So here I am, I'm putting it all out there, dare me, And then once we kind of came to this idea, the name Dare Me, that's when the acronyms kind of became apparent, that we use for the letters, drugs, addiction, recovery, enlightenment, music, exercise. So just kind of feel like that name came to me, not to get too flowery or mystical on it, but hence the name Dare Me. So, yeah, just putting it all out there, and before I committed to doing this program. I ran it by some people pretty close to me. Like, I got a couple of kids. I ran it by my son and my daughter. I said, hey, man, if this makes you uncomfortable, I will not do it, because I get it as a parent. Our behavior is a reflection, on our kids sometimes or whatnot. My kids are both grown, though, and they're adults with their own lives, and they had no challenges or problems with it at all. In fact, as I talked about on the promos and last week's show, my son G is going to actually be part of the show, and he'll be talking to us a lot about fitness when we get to that topic, how that's such an important part of recovery, exercise. I don't know anybody in better shape than my son G. He's truly a gym rat, and I think y'all are really going to enjoy him. Maybe we'll even get him on live near the end of the program today. But he is going to become a guest, and part of the show as we move forward. So anyway, though, the point I'm making is, isn't it a parent's job to embarrass their kids? So, with some of the shit I've been putting out there, especially like on social media, and getting vulnerable and, kind of thing with some of the stuff I post promoting the program, I'm sure they probably like cringe every once in a while, but again, I ran it all by them and other people in my life, friends, people that know me well, asking them, what do you think? I don't know. Is this a good idea? And not even one person said, oh, I don't know, Glenn. I don't know if you want to do that, Every person I ran it by said, oh, my God, man, that's right up your alley. Gee, I think you do a great job with it, man. Hey, that's pretty cool of you being willing to put yourself out there to hopefully help another person. And so, with all that being said, kind of brings it around to, how this program all evolved and kind of got started. And so, I want to put this out there today as well. Like I said, we're focusing on opiates and opioids, and other drugs as well. But I was talking with a friend of mine, Shebang, last night on the telephone, and we kind of reminded each other in talking about this whole thing that I really want to put out there that I am not here advocating to take pain medications away from anybody who legitimately needs them. Pain meds and different medications and drugs in and of themselves, are not necessarily a bad thing when they're used properly and what they're intended for. It's just that for people like me and people like myself, and obviously thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of others, it becomes a problem when we become addicted to them, physically dependent on them. And I know while I was still using the medications, I would read so much shit online when I was trying to kick. And I would get into all these different forums online and things. And there's so many people out there who are legitimately taking those medications and using them properly. And when I say medications, I'm referring to opiate medications like Norcos, Percocet, Oxys, Demerol, Dilaudid, all that stuff. And, I've seen a lot of posts and interaction from people like, oh, God, here they come. Here come the opiate police trying to take away my pain medications. Oh, my God, this shit has helped save my life. And for people who are legitimately taking those medications that are helping them to be responsible, productive members of society and all, and using them properly and all that shit, hey, man, that do you. I am not trying to come after anybody like that. That's not my intention at all. unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to control it. And I know that's the case for a lot of others. And it literally snowballed out of control and almost destroyed me. It almost killed me. And so, and I do want to say, I'll call it like it is, we know scientifically for a fact, and me, of course, as well, from personal experience, that when you use opiate medication, you build up a tolerance level. And that shit don't work the same the longer you use it as it did when you started. So if you're legitimately using it, come on, let's call it like it is, man. The longer you take it, the more you need for it to work the way it did when you originally started taking it. And people do build up a tolerance level. How the hell someone can continue to take it as prescribed, months down the road, years down the road from when they originally started taking it, I have no fucking idea. I just don't get it, because you do build up a tolerance level. And then, as we've, addressed different things having to do with this opiate pandemic, it's become clear and been discussed a lot that those medications mostly and initially were intended for like late stage cancer and things to that nature, and not being prescribed just so freely and willy-nilly for everyday aches and pains like it became. That's a lot of what happened with the opiate epidemic and, the whole big pharma thing, which, we can get into that more later on the program, moving forward. I don't want to get into that whole big controversy about it today. But they just started prescribing those things a hell of a lot easier, or made it a hell of a lot easier for people to get them and start even pushing them on people than what they were really intended for initially. So anyway, for me, and I've told my story on here before, but I'll try to keep it brief. I broke my ankle. I had cancer for a little while. I'm cancer-free now, and all that. This happened a long time ago. Like I said, I was on them damn things for 9 years, and it really did snowball out of control. And them last couple of years before I was able to finally get off of them were a nightmare. It truly became a nightmare for me. And, I would go through periods of being dope sick in between being able to get more pills and medication. And as I've shared on this program, I'm not proud to say this. I have to put it out there. At the end of the road, I started snorting heroin because I couldn't get any pills if they weren't available from the plugs I was, getting stuff from or from my doctor or whatever, because I couldn't control what I was getting anymore. I wasn't using them as prescribed. For God's sake, man, I would get a month-long prescription and burn through them in 5 days, maybe, and so you start trading with other people, you get them and all that other kind of stuff. And so the reason I go into that is because you get dope sick. You literally get dope sick when you don't have that shit. And, it's important to remember, I think this is a big part of it for people who don't understand that, at least for me, some people may want to debate me a little bit on this, but for me, an opiate is an opiate is an opiate. I don't give a fuck. You call it opioid, opiate, fuck, Norcos, Percocets, Oxys, heroin, Demerol, Dilaudid. It's kind of like alcohol. Okay, you drink a beer, you're getting alcohol. You drink wine, you're getting alcohol. You take a shot of liquor, you're getting alcohol. It's all fucking alcohol, okay? It's just the delivery system, but you're still drinking to get drunk. And it's the same thing with opiates, It doesn't matter what kind you're taking, it's an opiate. And so the whole idea with the whole heroin thing, it's like if you can't get the pills, which you think sometimes if you're taking them prescribed, well, hey, at least I'm taking prescribed medication, and not getting like street drugs. And then you get dope sick, the dope man or the plug will say, well, hey, man, we don't have the good pills, but we got some heroin, and that'll hold you over until we can get the good shit so you're not sick. because you do go into withdrawals from that shit. You are physically dependent, not to mention, psychologically. So I see we're getting a lot of comments, and I'm going to address those in a minute, but I want to kind of finish the point I'm making here is that you get dope sick. And that is, it's kind of like almost how something good grows out of something horrible, that whole blessing in disguise kind of thing. I would be dope sick, and I would be so freaking miserable just trying to kill time before I might be able to get some more shit. Right, and this happened a lot during like the COVID pandemic. I would be laying in bed trying to get through the misery I was going through being dope sick, and I would be scrolling, on social media and TikTok and shit like that, and YouTube, especially YouTube, trying to kill time. And then I was looking for some answers about how to get through opiate withdrawals. And I came across some good stuff. There's some good stuff out there on YouTube, but nothing like what we're doing here with this program. And that's what I meant by how something good, can sometimes come out of something horrible, is that's kind of where this idea was born, is I felt like, okay, there's some good stuff out there, but there's nothing like what I'm trying to do with this program that hopefully can get through to people and help people who are looking for a way out like I was. Me and Dean were talking before the program about a couple of channels on YouTube that really, really helped me that I kind of want to put out there today. One of them was this channel for this guy, Chris Nall. And Chris has some videos out there. He hasn't posted in a while, but I mean, he's got tens of thousands of views on some of these videos where he talks about things like kratom, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. He talks about Suboxone, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Methadone. These are replacement drug therapies, so to speak, when you're trying to get off of opiates. There's another guy out there, Gabe McCall. He's got some great stuff out there about detoxing off of some of these drugs that you can look up on YouTube. So again, Chris Nall, he spells it Chris, last name Knall, Chris Nall, and then Gabe McCall. So there's two practical ideas for anybody who may be struggling with this whole thing, looking for a way out, that you could go look at today. And they truly did help me. They were very motivational videos and channels there. Dean's got a graphic up for Chris. His stuff is really good. I highly recommend it, y'all. So in any case, after I got clean and I thought about it a lot, these guys really motivated me and kind of planted the seed for me to do this program that we're doing. So anyway, let me transition from there into talking about some of the things I just mentioned, the whole kratom and Suboxone and methadone thing, because for me, and I want to put this disclaimer out there again. Me and Dean talked about this last week. I want to make crystal fucking clear. I am no medical expert, and nor is Dean. We are no medical experts. Don't want to give anybody any bad advice, as my friend Shay said, we gotta be careful sometimes, those of us in the recovery community, with our good sharing asses, what we put out there, because we don't want to give people bad information. You can fuck around and kill somebody if you give them bad information, or inform people in the wrong way. So I want to put that disclaimer out there. I'm no medical expert. I ain't telling nobody what to do. I ain't telling nobody what not to do. I'm sharing my story. All I can share is my story, what I went through, what happened to me, or as we say in the program, my experience, strength, and hope, you know. And so, anyway, for me, when it came to the opiates, I seriously thought about going on Suboxone. I thought about going on methadone. I did not. I seriously thought about going into drug treatment, into a treatment facility, a rehab facility, a detox, which I had done in the past as a younger man. That's a whole other story. We'll talk about more moving forward on the program. You know, I got clean originally as a younger man. It was like 25 years old. I went through a couple of treatment centers and all that. I didn't want to do that again this time. I just didn't want to fucking go back into treatment or detox, you know. I wanted to kick on my own. And I tried like hell for a long fucking time, man. Oh, I tried for a couple of years. And I confided in some people close to me, you know. I confided with, you know, my sisters. I have 4 sisters. You know, my brother knew I was struggling. My son knew I was struggling. One of my good buddies, Mark, you know, there were people that knew I was trying to fucking get off that shit and get clean again. And I had some people trying to nudge me and talk me into going back into a treatment center. And I knew if I went in, they could help detox me and get me clean and all that shit. I just didn't want to do it. So I was looking for ways to kick and get clean again on my own. Hence, I, you know, started looking for stuff online and came across Chris and Gabe's channels and other things I found out there online. And that's when I, you know, really got serious about trying Kratom. Now, I had used Kratom before when I would get dope sick in between getting more pills, you know. I mean, I'm laughing about it. It ain't really fucking funny, but I got to have a sense of humor about it, you know. But I would get sick because I couldn't get any of the good, you know. And so, you know, I had just come across things online on how to get through till some more shit came in. And so I had used Kratom. And if you don't know what Kratom is, it is one of them, you know, some people will call like replacement therapy. Kratom is not an opiate. I highly encourage you, if you're struggling with opiate withdrawals, to research Kratom. And I want to clarify again, I'm not telling anybody to do Kratom. I'm not telling anybody not to do Kratom. I'm sharing what I did. And it's something I think if you're going through opiate withdrawals, you might want to research and decide if it's something you might want to try or do. I used it. For me, it was a godsend. It literally helped save my life. Kratom is a plant. And again, I'm not going to give you a whole education on Kratom. If it catches your interest, you're going through withdrawals, and you want to find out more about it, there's a world of information out there on Google, YouTube. You can find a ton of shit. Even on Chris and Gabe's channels, you can find all kinds of stuff about it. It's a plant, and it's considered to be in the coffee family. It's not an opiate. However, the research I've done is it attaches itself to the opiate receptors in our brain and kind of sort of tricks our opiate receptors into thinking we've taken an opiate when really we haven't. There, Gene's got a graphic up about, you know, a little bit about Kratom there. And so you can see it. It says right there, it's a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia. And like I said, everything I've read, it's considered kind of sort of to be in the coffee family. Now, there's different ways you can take Kratom. You know, there's this one method they call toss and wash, and I tried it. Can't fucking do it. Oh my God, I do not recommend that because it's a very fine ground up powder. And so, you know, there was an online challenge going on for a while. I'll compare it to where you take a teaspoon of cinnamon and try to swallow it, and it's almost impossible. And that's kind of the texture, if you will, of Kratom. But the main thing about doing toss and wash or trying to drink it, like even in a glass of water or a smoothie or some shit, is it tastes like shit. Oh my God, it tastes like it's awful. At least for me, it's awful. Some people, say they put it in smoothies on the regular and drink it. I couldn't fucking do it. I tried. I couldn't do it. So, if you do decide to try kratom, I'll tell you, it also comes in capsules. That's what I ended up doing is capsules. I guess it comes now too in a liquid form, kind of like those little 5-hour energy things that you can get. I've never used that. Or I should say, I never used it. I don't use kratom anymore. I used it to get through the withdrawals. Now, I will recommend this just because I was cautioned about this when I started using kratom. Get it from a legit place. Like a legit, you can get it at like vitamin stores, some of these CBD stores, a decent place. You'll see it sometimes at the checkout at a gas station. They have fucking dust on it or some shit, and it's been sitting there for God only knows how long. I don't necessarily recommend getting, old shit-ass kratom like that. Get it from a legit kratom dealer. I know, in and around like Metro Detroit, I spent the summer up there. There were different like vape stores, that had it on the shelves, So anyway, you get the idea. Try to get it from a legit place. Not some old gas station, if you do decide to try it. As far as dosage goes, you got to do your research on it online. You really got to read about it, watch some videos about it, because a lot of that depends on how much opiate medications you were using, or heroin, or whatever the fuck. And for how long you've been using opiates. And so another thing that I want to clarify, if you choose to give kratom a try, is, it's all about intent with some of these replacement therapies, if you will. And that's kind of what I'll refer to, this discussion we're having about kratom. As a replacement therapy. I'm not recommending anybody switch from using opiates to using kratom. For me, it was all about the wean down. And I read, and I certainly found this to be the case for me, that kratom, it doesn't completely take away the withdrawals. At least for me, it certainly didn't. But it can take the edge off about 70% of those withdrawal symptoms, which I'm going to transition into and talk to about in just a second. So kratom doesn't completely take away the withdrawal symptoms. You got to fucking just go through it, man. You got to, as Chris Nall says in his videos, you got to embrace the misery, or I think he says the suckiness. You got to fucking embrace it, man, because it's coming. There's just no way around it, man. If you choose to get off of opiates, you're going to go through fucking hell. It is miserable. It fucking sucks. Worst thing I've ever been through in my life. So let me just go ahead and transition, into that. Before I do, though, I just want to say one more time, if you're going through opiate withdrawals, do some research on kratom. I'm not recommending you do it. I'm not recommending you don't. I'm just recommending you may want to research it and think about it. And again, as far as dosage goes, I could share what dosage I use, but it's all kind of based on how much opiate medication you were using and for how long. And you'll find a shit ton of information out there about dosage, and you can also talk to the people where you go buy it. Another reason why I was recommending getting it from a legit place that can talk to you about it. Suboxone, I'll talk about it briefly. I was that fucking close to going on Suboxone because I had just about given up on ever getting off of the opiate medication. I had just about fucking given up on it because I tried. I tried so fucking hard. for a couple of years, you know, and I'm pretty educated on Suboxone and methadone. And I thought about methadone, you know, but you got to go to a fucking clinic every day and wait in line and all that other shit. Where you can get prescribed Suboxone, and they have the strips now you take home with you, so you don't have to fucking go into a place every day to get the shit. Um, Part of the reason I didn't do that is because I know people who have used that stuff. I read about it online. I watched videos about it online. And although some people swear by it, and I have no challenges or issues with that, do you? What I'm saying is what I learned, what I was told from those with experience is that getting off of those things can even be more difficult than getting off the fucking actual medication or opiates themselves. And they are forms of opiate medication. You just don't get that euphoric feeling using the Suboxone or the methadone. But they're what a lot of people call maintenance drugs. I talked last week about that documentary, The Neuroscience of Addiction. Another practical idea for people who maybe are looking for a way out, who may be watching today. I highly recommend watching that documentary. I watched it on Prime, but I think there's other platforms that carry it. The Neuroscience of Addiction. There's a doctor in there who talks about, you know, Suboxone, and there's some people in the program, you know, without getting into politics and shit, who, you know, they get so caught up into this, you know, I call them recovery Nazis of, oh, well, you're not really clean if you're taking Suboxone, you know, or you're taking methadone. And it's like, fuck that, man. You know, I disagree with people like that, you know. And me and my buddy, I mentioned my buddy Shebang, we were talking about it last night. There's this whole thing now, it's referred to as harm reduction. And I am a big fan of harm reduction, man. If we can get people off of the fucking opiates, the medication, the street drugs, all these fake pills, the heroin, that, you know, is all laced with fentanyl and shit now. 220 fucking people dying from opiate overdoses every day. And someone wants to talk shit about somebody taking subs or methadone or kratom for that matter. What the fuck, man? You know, I don't want to get into a long family history or anything, but I come from a long line of fucking dope fiend addicts, alcoholics, you know. And when I was a younger man, you know, my father was a person that struggled with addiction, alcoholism, and his whole family. And them guys, man, they all fought in Korea, came back with that PTSD shit, and they were drinkers, man. They fucking all drank themselves to death. God bless them, may they rest in peace. Point I'm making is I remember thinking at a time, and still to this day, if them fucking guys could have just switched to smoking pot instead of drinking themselves to death, some of them may have lived another fucking 20, 30 years. They would all have been, you know, way old now. But point I'm making is, you know, it's harm reduction, man. You know, it's not always about getting 100% clean and sober. So if we can get people off of the shit that's killing them, and get them through whatever withdrawals or mental challenges or whatever the fuck they're going through, you know, maybe then they can transition into getting completely clean and sober at some point. And so again, that whole documentary, the doctor talks about, man, you know, let's compare it to like a diabetic, you know, they take insulin and they have to take it for the rest of their life, but it keeps them alive, keeps them responsible, productive members of society. Same thing with a fucking opiate addict. If they switch over to subs, methadone, kratom, whatever the fuck, you know, and now they're able to lead responsible, productive lives and not be out there risking killing themselves every day, then what's the problem with that? I just don't get it. You know, so for me, though, I want it to be 100% clean again, you know, because I've had challenges with relapses over my life. You know, as I mentioned, a couple years off the opiates again now, thank God. But again, you know, for me, I used kratom, and it helped me. I did not choose to go on subs or methadone. That would have been my next step had I not been able to get through it with the help of the Kratom and smoking weed, by the way. I haven't even talked about that. I used other shit to get through the withdrawals. I was smoking some weed. I used some Xanax a little bit. I was taking Zoloft, antidepressant for a while. Other things I did. I mean, I want to clarify, I am 100% clean today. I don't even fucking take cholesterol medication anymore. The only fucking drug I do anymore is caffeine. You know, I drink coffee, I drink soda, you know, that's it. No fucking nicotine, no nothing. You know, I probably could get on a little blood pressure medication. My blood pressure gets a little high sometimes. Surprise, surprise, your old pal Glenn's so high strung and all. But I live 100% drug free today, and that's how I want it to be. That's me. Do you? You know, so anyway, with all that being said, let me talk a little bit about being dope sick, because I started to transition into that, and that's what I was talking about a little bit, how the Kratom helped me get through the withdrawals and took about maybe 70% off the edge, but you're going to have to go through it, you know. If you truly want to get clean, and I will say that, you got to fucking want it, you know. If you don't want to get off the shit, then it probably ain't going to happen. You know, there's that old saying around the program, some people get a nudge from the judge, you know, if they get in some legal troubles or whatever. And so all of a sudden now they got to start going to meetings and all that kind of shit. You know, some people do it to maybe save their job or save a relationship, going through it with their wife or their husband or whoever the fuck, you know. If you don't really want to do it yourself for you, then, you know, it probably ain't going to happen, you know. But if you really want to, you can get clean. And then, as I've said before, you know, I said it on the other program and some promos, you know, there's a saying around the program, you know, any old asshole can get clean, you know. You want to get clean, go and fucking detox, go into a treatment center or rehab. They'll get you clean, you know. But once they kick your ass out of there, how you going to stay clean, you know? And we're going to talk more about that on this program. But the point I'm making is, if you decide you want to get off this shit, there's things you can do to lessen the misery of the withdrawals, but you got to go through it. You know, you just got to fucking resign yourself to the fact that you gotta go through it, and you're gonna be fucking miserable. But I promise you this with every cell of my being, no matter how fucking miserable you feel, you will get through it. You feel like you're gonna fucking die, and you wanna die, but you will come out the other end of it. I promise you that. Don't fucking give up. No matter what, just keep fucking going. I love that old saying. It's attributed to Winston Churchill, I guess. And, you know, it was kind of like during wartime, but he said, if you're going through fucking hell, keep fucking going. And so that's the whole thing I try to remember when I was going through the opiate withdrawals. Oh my God, it is going through hell. Just keep going, and I promise you, you will come out the other end of it. You know, I go to meetings, and we're going to talk about all that later in other editions of the program. And the reason I bring that up is when I open and talk at meetings, or share as we call it, I very often will start off by saying, hey, my name's Glenn, I'm an addict, and I am so grateful to be here tonight. I'm grateful I'm not dope sick or out chasing one on whatever the hell night it might be. So, you know, let's talk about dope sickness for a minute, because sometimes when someone's going through it, it can be helpful just to know you ain't the only one, you know, because you feel so fucking alone in this world, like nobody understands what you're going through. I understand, man. You know, those of us who've been through opiate withdrawal, we get it. We understand what you're dealing with, man, what you're going through. Oh my God, here's the things I don't fucking miss is the cold sweats. Oh my God, I hated that. you will go through the cold sweats. You will go through, they call it restless leg syndrome. I always say they ought to call it fucking restless limb syndrome, because I'd be sitting there like looking at TV going through it, and my fucking arms would just start flapping, my legs kicking. I still get that restless leg every once in a while. I think it's part of what they call, PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome. It's been over 2 fucking years since I put an opiate in this body, and but I was on a 9-year run, and I was doing a lot at the end there, so I think it's still gonna take a little while till I'm completely past that shit, if I ever completely get past it. But anyway, I do not fucking miss all those, restless leg and limb syndrome things. I took some notes this week, y'all, so that's why I'm looking down. Because, I didn't want to forget some of this stuff that I'm talking about, man. So, yeah, you get the cold sweats. You get the restless limb syndrome. You feel like you're crawling out of your fucking skin. You really, literally feel like you're jumping out of your own skin. You feel like you have this hamster running on a wheel inside of your chest, and it's fucking horrible. You get insomnia. You won't be able to sleep, and you'll be climbing the walls. That's where some of that maintenance medication did come into play, man, and it really helped. Smoking some weed, and again, I'm not recommending anybody fucking smoke weed. I'm not recommending anybody take Xanax. I'm not recommending you do. I'm not recommending you don't. Do you? I'm sharing what I did that worked for me, that helped me through it. I'll share this. There's someone that's very close to me, who actually has been clean over 30 years. And when I was kicking, I didn't go into that whole story. I call it the homemade rehab, or however the hell I said it. I won't go into the long story, but I ended up flying. I was living in Orlando when I finally did kick and get clean. I flew back to Detroit, where I grew up. Most people leave Detroit to get clean. I fucking went back to Detroit and got clean. And anyway, long story short, I kicked in my sister's basement, of all places. I talk about it was a nice basement as far as basements go. I don't want to give this picture of some dingy ass fucking basement. It was a nice house, a nice finished off basement. That's where I kicked, in her basement, in the middle of winter, freezing down there. But anyway, point I'm making is, someone very close to me, while I was kicking there, brought me some weed. I didn't even ask for it or think about it. Well, I guess I had thought about it, but someone who I know that has over 30 years clean, but has helped other people get through this shit and knows a little bit about it, brought me some weed and said, here, G, listen, I went to the pot store because it's legal in Michigan for recreational. You don't even need a medical card. And I told the girl, hey, I know somebody going through opiate withdrawals, and I was wondering, and he said he didn't even finish his sentence, and the girl said, I know exactly what to give you, because they have different strains, fuck, I'm trying to remember, what is it, indica, stevia, whatever the fuck. I'm no expert on that shit, although I thought I was when I was a younger man. That's a different story. So anyway, there was like, okay, smoke this shit at the beginning of the day when you get up. It'll take the edge off the depression, because that's one of the side effects. You will fucking get depressed. And then this strain is better for at night when you're trying to sleep. This will help you with your appetite, because you do get the munchies, because when you're going through opiate withdrawals, you have no fucking appetite, man. You can't eat or drink shit, So anyway, it's all about intent. For me, it was, I didn't want to switch off of the opiates and become a fucking pothead, I had smoked weed like fucking it was going out of style when I was a teenager and shit, and I laid off that shit for a long time, like 20 plus fucking years, I didn't want to become a pothead. I also wanted to get through the withdrawals. So, I got people who know about this shit saying, hey, man, this shit will fucking help you, it'll help give you a little bit of an appetite. It'll help you sleep, get through the insomnia. It'll take a little edge off the depression. Because, again, that is another side effect of coming off the opiates. That shit, gives you euphoric feelings, you know. It fucks with your endorphins and all that other shit. And when you take it out, man, and you stop, oh my God, the brain's like going nuts. Like, where's my shit, man? Where's my shit? You know. And so, again, I'm not telling you to smoke weed. I'm not telling you not to. I'm just saying, do you? It's something I did that helped me. I did have a prescription for Xanax. You know, benzos ain't no fucking joke, y'all. You know, I am not recommending anybody fucking do them. I'm not recommending you don't. Like I said, I don't mean to beat that dead horse. I'm saying I did have a legit prescription for it. It was a pretty low dosage, and it did help me because you will get fucking anxiety. And, you know, if you research, you know, home remedies for opiate withdrawals online, whether it's Googling it, YouTube videos, whatever the fuck, you know, you'll see there's a lot of stuff out there about using benzos or sedatives, whether it's Klonopin, Valium, whatever, to help you get through the anxiety. Now, I say that, you know, very cautiously because, as I've referenced, the last thing, you know, we want to see happen is somebody, you know, get off of fucking opiates, and then all of a sudden now you got a benzo habit or a pot habit or whatever the fuck, you know. Do you? But, you know, remember, it's like I said, for a lot of us, about harm reduction. And like I said, what is your intent? You know, I never had any intention of switching from opiates to benzos or smoking weed or whatever. My intent was, or kratom, you know, was for them to help me get through the withdrawals, which they did. Helped me immensely, tremendously, beyond how I can even possibly describe. For those who have been through it, you know what I'm talking about. If you're watching this and you're going through it, just trying to give you some practical ideas and motivation to hopefully prompt you to be able to try to get through it. Because, you know, that's another thing I want to talk about when it comes to the fucking withdrawal symptoms, is that you also get this negative, very negative mindset. You do go into a depression, and you also lose all your energy. I mean, you lose your motivation, man. Again, I don't mean to laugh, you know, because it ain't funny. It ain't funny at all. I'm just, you know, thank God I've come out to the other side of it. But I remember it would take everything I had just to get out of bed to go to the fucking bathroom, just to go to the bathroom. And then, you know, we're getting maybe, you know, TMI for some people, but this is real and raw on this show here. You get to the bathroom and you got the fucking shits, because that's what going through withdrawals does to you. You know, when you're taking that shit, if somebody's watching this hooked on that shit, we know you're constipated. That shit will bind you up. Oh my God. When you're taking opiates, man, you do get constipated. Believe me, it fucking sucks. And then when you stop using it, man, anything you put in your body, it fucking runs right through you. So then you're sitting on the shitter, and then you get nauseous and you want to puke. So you're sitting on the shitter, but all of a sudden you feel like you want to fucking puke, so you got to stand up to puke in the toilet, and then the shit's dripping, and it's a fucking mess. It's a fucking nightmare, man. You know, so again, I know that's getting pretty descriptive there, but if you've been through it, you know what I'm talking about. It ain't no fucking fun, man. And, you know, but again, like I said, I promise you, you will get through it. Just keep fucking going. Like they say, man, when you're going through hell, keep fucking going. You'll come through the other side of it. There's no way you're going to take away the withdrawals completely and the hell you go through. But you will come out the other side. You know, there's other information out there. Some people will say, you get through it in 3 days. I don't know who the fuck came up with 3 days, because it sure wasn't 3 days for me. I mean, the worst, I think, is the first like 3 to 5 days. That's the worst, man. You know, and then it starts to get a little bit better day by day after that, but it takes a long time, man. I mean, you know, it literally, before you really, really even start feeling human again and like hey man, maybe I am doing this. It's going to take a month, it's going to take a month. So embrace the misery, as that boy Chris Nall says, embrace the suckiness and fucking go through it, man. You got this. If you're watching this and you're trying to get through it, you got this. You can do it. If I can fucking do it, believe me, anybody can do it. It was the worst thing I ever been through in my life. I sometimes will share this at meetings, and not to get into this whole thing, but I had bladder cancer, and I had surgery. They took a little tumor out, and thank God I didn't have or have to go through radiation, but I did have to go through chemo for 6 months, and that sucked. Oh my God, it fucking sucked. Going through opiate withdrawals, 100 times worse than that. Worst fucking thing I've ever been through. You'll read shit online that compares it to having the flu times 10. Bring on the flu, man. I'd rather get the flu anytime. It was so much fucking worse than that. I just can't even begin to describe it. It was horrible. You feel like you want to die. I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to kind of move on to another topic. The thing that I try to remember on a daily basis, and I'm at a point now with a couple years off of that shit behind me where I just feel like, I'm moving on with my life. I'm very involved with the program and meetings and stuff. Like I said, you can get clean, but how you going to stay clean? There's different things that I do to help myself stay clean. And one of them is I got to remind myself of the shit I never want to go back to. And one of the things I try to remember on the regular is it had gotten to the point with me, and this was definitely the case when I was going through withdrawals, but even leading up to kicking, where I would wake up and literally, once I kind of shook the cobwebs away and came to and realized I was awake again, I would literally say out loud, like, God damn. Pardon, I bumped the mic. God damn, another fucking day, another fucking day I got to get through, especially if I knew I didn't have a wake up. I'd used all my shit the night before, so the first thing I had to do was start fucking working the phone, trying to cop some shit and set up a meetup and all that bullshit, chasing it. Oh my God, I ain't even mentioned that. Thank God I ain't fucking chasing that shit no more. Oh my God, swallowing my pride with the dope man and all that bullshit, Oh my God, thank God. I don't have to live like that no more, man. I'm so fucking grateful I don't have to live like that no more. But the point I'm making is, man, I literally would wake up and think to myself, another fucking day. And now, thank God, I wake up and I'm excited for the day. I got, good things going on and all that other stuff. And if you're going through it and you're watching this, I swear, I promise to you, you can get there too. Just keep going, man. So anyway, let me transition on. I did want to talk about one other thing, man, and then we'll see. We're getting a lot of comments, and we're coming up on an hour. We'll transition into this. One thing I want to caution anyone who's watching this against is don't do yourself a favor and don't fuck with the booze. I made a huge mistake thinking, well, maybe because I hadn't been drinking. I had gotten sober, and I had been off of alcohol for a long time. That's a whole other story. But, I hadn't been drinking at all for literally over 6 years, actually. I went into treatment after a 5-year relapse on that shit, and I had been off the booze for 6 years. So I thought to myself, well, I'm going through these fucking opiate withdrawals. Maybe if I just have a few drinks, it'll help take the edge off the opiate withdrawals and help get me through it. Huge fucking mistake. Huge mistake for me. So again, you do you. I'm just saying, based on my experience, don't recommend that, man, because that snowballed out of control. And then I had 2 fucking habits. And if you're taking them fucking pills and you're taking the ones that are laced with the Tylenol, I say laced, but typical Norcos, Perks, and shit like that, man, they're loaded with fucking Tylenol, which is so hard on your liver, especially when you're taking way more than you're supposed to be. And believe me, if you're hooked on that shit, I know how much you're taking, and then putting booze on top of it. Holy shit, I'm so fucking lucky my liver didn't just shut right down. But the point I'm making is the booze snowballed out of control for me, y'all, and I was back to drinking a fucking 5th of JMO a day and beers and everything else, and just horror fucking stories I can tell you. And this is a little bit of a teaser for next week's episode of the show. I thought about whether or not I wanted to do this or not, but I've pretty much made my mind up I'm going to do it. It's kind of a trendy thing in the Recover Out Loud community now. I am going to show y'all some before and after photos. I have a photo of me in full-blown active addiction when I started drinking. Not when I started, when I had been drinking again for a while to try to help get me through the withdrawals, and it snowballed out of control. And I woke up one morning, and I still don't know everything that happened the night before, but I will tell you, it ain't pretty. It ain't fucking pretty. And for some reason, that morning, I took a photo of myself. Looks like a fucking mugshot, only 10 times worse. And when y'all see it, I show it to people every now and then. They'll say, oh, my God, that doesn't even look like you. And it doesn't. And it's like when I see that picture, man, it's a good reminder to me. And then I got another picture where I had a little over a few months clean, and I got what in the program we call recovery belly, because you get your appetite back and you start eating again. And I've talked about this in some promos, man. I got up to fucking 180, which for me is like way too much. I lost a lot of that weight, and I'm back in shape again, thank God. But I'm going to show that picture, too, of your old pal Glenn up to 180. So those photographs are good motivators for me. So I'm going to reveal those to y'all on next week's episode of the show. So anyhow, with all that said, let me see if I can check out some of these comments real quick here, Dean. Let's see. Okay. I see Carol. My sister Carol was chiming in. I see Linda was chiming in. Lori's on there. Phil's on there. The podcast doctor. We said someone tried I see someone said they tried the liquid kratom and said yuck. Yeah, I've never tried the liquid, like I said, but I do know the toss and wash shit was pretty nasty.
So I want to hear more about that story with Linda. She said when she first moved into this apartment complex, the neighbors knew she had prescription painkillers just by her saying she had just had her wisdom teeth pulled.
Yeah. Well, Linda, if you want to chime in again on that, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I can even think of, just everybody who's probably had a tooth pulled has probably got a cabinet full of codeine or, any of that stuff. So
yeah, I see my boy Shebang jumped on there, and Shebang, I appreciate your comment. He just wrote, never got to put that shit in your body again. And man, thank God for that. That's for sure. And Dean, you are exactly right. I shared on the program, if you remember last week, when you're hooked on that shit, bro, you will spot a mile away if someone even has like a little limp. Yeah. And you'll be like, hey bro, man, you taking anything for that? Oh yeah, I got some pain. Oh well, hey, listen, I take the shit too, man, and I'm running a little low, man. I get my re-up from the doctor next month. You think you can slide me some till I get mine? And next thing you know, you got this little network of people you're trading fucking pills with and shit. So what Linda shared there does not surprise me at all. That if I'm reading this correctly, Linda, you're saying that you just shared with your neighbor you had your wisdom tooth pulled and they were hooked on the fucking pills, so they were like, hey man, can I get some of them pain pills from you? Because
I can
what happens.
imagine. I can imagine what the story. Did someone break into her apartment? Did
Oh
they
yeah, yeah.
rifle through her medicine cabinet? Makes me think that I shouldn't really say I've got hydrocodone in my bathroom
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. You got to be
Then
careful. Yeah.
funny. I remember taking that stuff, and I really was resistant to taking that stuff. But I remember taking a pill. It would take about an hour to kick in, and
Mm-hmm.
one time I took 2 pills, and that was scary.
Yeah. Well,
Two
you know
pills
what?
was scary. I mean, just
Well, tell me what you mean by scary, Dean. And I'm glad you brought this up because it does affect different people in different ways. Now,
I
what do you
guess
mean
I'd
by
be
scary?
since I've never really spent a lot of time taking painkillers.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst of it has been getting a tooth pulled. And scary, 1 hour into taking one pill, I'd be like, wow, okay, the care goes away. You get that
Yeah.
that calm, like, the receptors are being blocked, the pain receptors are
Yeah.
being blocked, and you go,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Two is you're almost like you fall in a hole. I don't know if that's for me. I mean, 2 pills was like you fall in a hole and you go, whoa, I'm in a hole.
Yeah.
I just you kind of lose yourself a little bit, and that was just 2. And I was like, oh no. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go, yeah, never again. Thank goodness it was never a long-term recovery. A pulled tooth doesn't last more than a few days, and even then, if I have a tooth pulled, I don't touch that stuff any.
Yeah. Well, no, I really appreciate you sharing that, Dean. I was just leaning over to read some of the comments. Shebang chimed in, Linda chimed in again. Appreciate y'all chiming in there. And yeah, the thing is, like you just said, Dean, it affects different people in different ways. And even like, for example, my boy G, who we'll have on the program moving forward, he's one of them guys where he's not that addictive personality like me. He'll
Right.
say it himself, kind of like what you just said,
Yeah.
where he'll have some drinks once in a while, go out with some friends, but he'll say, Dad, man, I just don't like that feeling of not being in control. Kind of like what you were just saying of being in a hole or something. He's just not that way.
It's that, one kind of can do all right. One drink or one
Yep.
anything, one painkiller. But the second you start thinking, well, if one makes me feel this way, what's two makes me feel like?
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
oh, I kind of, makes me forget my problems. And I don't know, but and I've never, like your son, I've never had an addictive personality. Never smoked, never, okay, I'm a chocoholic,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and coffee is my only vice, like yourself, that I have to have every day. In fact, I just had my second in the
Yeah.
form of brought to you
Yeah.
by Starbucks. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's never affected me that much. And even drinking, if I
Yeah.
have 2 drinks a week, I have to think hard. Did I have 2 drinks
Yeah.
this week?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
whatever.
and I'm so glad you brought that up, Dean, because like I said, it affects different people in different way, and even different ways, and even like with opiates, for a lot of people, you take a certain amount of opiates, and it'll knock people out. You often
Mm-hmm.
hear like heroin, you'll get a nod. You know what I mean? And so for some people like myself, it has almost an opposite effect. I mean, there were times, especially when I was hooked on the fucking Dilaudids, man, and snorting that fucking shit, it would make me nod for a little bit. But then when I came out of the nod, man, it gave me energy. Like, I remember, man, when I was still working, I would work, 15-hour days. But it became like this vicious cycle because I would use more dope to keep working, and I would have to keep working to get more money to get more dope, and then do more dope to keep working. But the point I'm making is for some of us, when you really develop that opiate habit, it gives you this energy. And then, you touched on something, Dean, that maybe we can talk more about on an upcoming edition of the show, is you start to put the dope on top of, like you said, your problems or whatever. Now, I don't personally feel like that's how it starts off for anyone. It certainly didn't start off that way for me. You know, when you take opiates or smoke weed or drink or whatever the case may be, I don't think anybody uses any kind of mind or mood altering chemicals out of the gate to get away from their problems. They do it because either it's a social thing, and then, of course, it gives you that euphoric feeling. That's how it starts off. And then, if you continue to do it on a regular basis, yeah, it fucks with your emotions and your feelings. And so now you do start to put it on top of those feelings. And whether it be getting away from problems or maybe feelings of happiness and excitement. And so you're not able to, even process that. So you put more dope on it and shit. And, and then it becomes that snowball effect. So,
I know it sparks from a lot of different things. You said it was an injury. Some people get an illness, not just an injury, but an illness. And it looks like Linda said she had broke her ankle. So obviously that's 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks of recovery. And, usually, probably the first couple of weeks she was probably in pain, and then you have to know ahead of time to pare down the painkillers, not to use them as the crutch. But for some people it's pain management, and doctors love to give out pain management pills. There's and when there's not just a legitimate doctor, there's all the Dr. Feelgoods out there, that'll write prescriptions for your glaucoma, and things like that, before they legalized.
You know what, Dean? I'm glad you brought that up because, that is a big part of it. Now, I will say it's not as much as it was. You talked about doctors who love writing prescriptions and all that. And, I've mentioned on here that, when I share my story, I corrected myself once last week when I said, I'm here to tell what happened to me. And then I corrected myself and I said, I like a better way to say it is what happened with me. Because I don't want to come across on here like I'm a victim. Like, this is what they did to me or whatever. That's not how I look at it. Now, on that note, though, I will say, doctors, and with all respect to the people in the medical profession, I have family members that are doctors and nurses and friends and colleagues. So nothing against them in that profession. What I'll also say is that's what they know. That's what they're taught is help people with their pain. And how are they taught to do that? In most cases, it's write them a prescription for a medication. Right. And now, when it comes to the opiate meds, though, things have gotten a lot stricter. In fact, you were talking about going to the dentist and all. I had some dental work done not too far back. And, actually, I've had a lot of dental work done over the course of my life. And so the point I'm making is they ain't as loose with them opiate meds at the dentist as they used to be. And here's something else I'll say. I do have some lower back issues. And I mean legit issues. My doctor, who I was getting the pills from, actually sent me to get an MRI when he started kind of freaking out that the DEA might come audit all his records and shit and wanted to be able to, no, I'm serious. Legitimately state his case like, well, no, this guy does have a legit back issue. That's why I'm giving him all these pills. So, I have some disc issues. Dean, in a previous life, I had a mobile DJ business for, 25 fucking years. And, man, lifting them damn speakers and them album crates all them years, I never lifted with my legs properly. I always lifted with my back. I fucked my back up, man. My back is not in the best shape.
I remember those speakers you had.
Yeah. They were big. Well, the point I'm making, though, is, there's some of us, and I don't mean this in a negative or evil way, but some of us that have come to the conclusion, man, as a society, we've become a bunch of fucking wimps, It's like, oh, God, I stubbed my toe. Give me some oxys, It's like, you might be surprised how much a little Tylenol, aspirin, ibuprofen can help. Because, like I said, man, I don't take shit anymore. Yeah, I have some aches and pains and shit. I'm older now, but you learn to kind of just deal with it. We don't have to go throwing opiate meds on every damn thing,
I might take 4 Advil a year.
Yeah, yeah,
And I got to
exactly.
really get to that point. But
Yep.
Linda's been very vocal here. She said,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, I
the
saw.
neighbors didn't break in, but she told her mother, who was living with her, not to give in to them. So I
Yep.
guess they were asking what she was doing with all her extra pills. Yeah, that's a bit scary.
Yeah, and I see as well, Linda, you asked about, do I think the media has fueled this based
Oh,
on,
yeah. Oh,
what
yeah.
they might think could be a good headline story for the day or whatever. One thing I will say about that is I'm a little disappointed with the media at large right now. Being a media guy, that made a career out of working in the news business and the media, that they seem to have put this on the back burner. Ever since COVID hit, it became the big thing, and that was the top story every day and everything. Even COVID's on the back burner now, and it has not gone away completely. It's still a thing. But this opioid epidemic, it's gotten worse, not better, with fentanyl and everything. And, this came to mind, Dean. You were talking about, the doctors giving the shit away so freely. When I lived in Central Florida, where you're still at, you remember they had the whole thing with the pill mills. I mean, they were
Yeah.
literally bussing people in from places like West Virginia and Tennessee and Kentucky, where the opioid epidemic hit so hard in those mining places. They would bus them into Florida so they could get these scripts filled at these pill mills without even having to go to a fucking pharmacy or whatever. Well, they shut that shit down.
Yeah.
That's over and done with in the past, and it's a lot harder now to get the stuff, but that's part of the reason, in my humble opinion, why the fentanyl thing is snowballed out of control, because they've gotten so strict on restricting, the medications and all, which is a good thing, that now the fentanyl's coming and flooding in. And the thing of it is, let me talk about this briefly. And I got a couple war stories about this. I'll tell, on upcoming shows. Is there's fake pills out there now, folks, and they're laced with fentanyl, and they look like the real thing. People that are in the recovery community know all about this, but I'm sure we'll have other viewers and listeners who maybe aren't as educated on this shit. You can buy a fucking pill press on Amazon, on fucking Amazon, and have it delivered right to your front door, and mix some shit up and make them, and they look just like legit pills you would get from a pharmacy. And people are making these fucking fake pills and using fentanyl to lace them, and basically mixing it up in their kitchen sink, if you will, and they're pushing this shit on the street, and they just don't care, man. If it kills somebody, all they want is your money. So for anybody that might be watching or listening to this who is looking for a way out and is caught up in being addicted to the opiates, don't fuck with them street pills, man. Just don't fucking do it, because you just don't know what you're getting. They might look like the real deal, but it is a fucking roll of the dice. Talk about Russian roulette, man, and that's why we're getting 220 deaths every day from opiate overdoses. A lot of it is people getting their hands on these fake pills. They don't have a mission to commit suicide or whatever. They think they're taking legit pills that they bought off the street or from somebody they know, whoever the fuck, and they think they're the real thing, and they're laced with fentanyl. They take them and they die.
What's
So,
Linda saying here? Southern Ohio had a government-sanctioned opioid mill.
yeah, well,
Didn't hear about
and,
that.
and I appreciate that, Linda. There's a lot of stuff out there that we could talk about, and I totally appreciate where you're going with this. The media's part in it, the government's part of it, and for the sake of this program, we could talk about that stuff, and I thought a lot about it before we even started this program, that I kind of don't really want to go down those paths because I don't want to make the show about politics. I don't want to get into the political side of it because I don't want to, push anybody away. This show and me putting myself out there and talking about all this is all about trying to help people. And so that's part of the reason why I've even said, like I ain't telling nobody what to do. I ain't telling nobody what not to do. Do you? I'm just sharing what I did and what I believe helped me, worked for me, and quite frankly, saved my life. That's the main thing I want to talk about. But going back to the whole media thing, I will say, I think the media, quite frankly, could do a little more to help shed light on this problem because it has not gone away. It, quite frankly, has gotten worse. So what's Shivang saying there?
Thoughts on creating medical facilities where people can use medical grade drugs safely, like in Paraguay. Death rates are a lot lower.
Yeah, well, that's a good topic, Shivang, and I'm glad you chimed in. And by the way, everyone, Shivang, if you've watched any of my, promos leading up to this program, you've heard me mention him a lot. And I just can't wait, Dean, as well, till we have him as an actual guest on the program, a featured guest. Clearly he's a guest today, chiming in on the chat, but a featured guest on the show. Such a very wise person. And we talked yesterday, and he's agreed to come on the program and share some of his experience with kicking the opiates and talk about things like ibogaine and ayahuasca, which are psychedelics. And, there's a whole nother area that we can talk about because I was that fucking close as well to trying to go on ibogaine. I was going to leave the fucking country. I was that desperate of trying to get off that shit. And so here again, some practical ideas. It would take way too much time for us to get it in on today's program, but when we get Shivang on as a featured guest, we'll talk in depth about ibogaine and ayahuasca. But I highly recommend for someone who may be watching or listening that's going through it and looking for a way out, do some research online. Read about ibogaine. It can really and has helped a lot of people. Fortunately for me, I didn't have to go that far down the road to try that. But Shivang is very, very knowledgeable and educated on those particular two topics, and we'll talk more about that when we have him as a featured guest on an upcoming edition of the show. And on that note, I did want to mention as well that we are going to have some other really cool guests coming up on the show. I mentioned some last week, but excuse me, as you know, the acronyms for that whole Dare Me name are drugs, addiction, recovery, and then enlightenment, music, and exercise. And those all kind of came after me in my thinking after we had the actual name. And there you go, Dean put them up in graphics there. Is because these are all my favorite topics now, and these are the things that helped me in my recovery to get clean, and quite frankly are still helping me now to stay clean. So the whole Dare Me name, it just has so many different meanings to me. Like I said, dare me to go ahead and do this and put myself out here like this and talk about this topic, but also addressing these topics. And so, Dean and I talked a little bit before the show today about meditation and how important that can be, not just for people, kicking dope or in the recovery community, for just people in general. And, I had mentioned to him, that for some of those, terminally hip and fatally cool, badass, manly men, the idea of meditating can be a little bit too flowery for some of them. And my response to that is, look up some videos with Kobe. Talking about meditation, or LeBron, two of the fucking most, manly men out there, and of course Kobe, may he rest in peace, and they swore by it or swear by it, LeBron, them guys meditate, man, and attribute a lot of their success to, the power of meditation. So when we talk about enlightenment, we're going to talk about that kind of stuff a lot. And then, of course, music. That's another thing when Shebang jumps on with us, man. He and I have this bond when it comes to music. Some of y'all who've watched, my other promos for the show know that I am currently, up to my elbows in learning auto tune software and that I make music, and I put some of it out there on my Facebook profile and YouTube channel. I like doing covers, because it helps me to practice and in the auto tune software and learn with it. I do have some original stuff, and I've done some. I'll put some more out there. But the point I'm making is. And I meant to mention this earlier for someone that has decided to fully embrace the misery and walk through that withdrawal. There's other things you can do to help get you through that, and one of them is watch fucking TV, man. Pick out all your favorite movies, or if you got that list of movies you've been wanting to watch for a long time, have at it, man, because you ain't gonna be able to fucking sleep. And it is a distraction, So, look at it that way from a positive perspective. Like, hey, you get to watch a bunch of fucking movies. You got to do something to kill your time to get out of this fucking head, because you'll feel like you want to fucking die. And it is a good distraction. So, yeah, man, get a good list of movies together. And then, like I said, music. It's been a godsend for me. I've been a music guy my whole life, as I mentioned, the whole DJ business, working on the radio, playing music, all that shit. I just always been a music guy. So I'm lucky, I guess, and blessed that way that it has been a good outlet for me. But the point I'm making, too, is part of the show is going to be talking about music. And, we got some good artists lined up that are going to be guests on the show, including Shebang. He's a great artist, and I talked about that boy Kasky last week. He's agreed to be a guest on the show. A lot of artists out there with good positive messages now that are living clean, and so we'll talk more about that on the show coming up. I wanted to mention two things on music real quick. For those of y'all that follow this kind of stuff, we lost a great artist this last week. One of our fellow blue-eyed soul brothers, as they say. All of a sudden got a little filled up for a second. Bobby Caldwell passed away, and if you don't know who Bobby Caldwell was, you probably know his most famous song, What We Won't Do for Love. And speaking of doing covers, I've been working on that one for the last couple of nights. I've laid down a couple versions of it. I just keep doing take after take and trying to fine tune it. And when I get it done, I'll put it out there. But yeah, man, R.I.P. to Bobby Caldwell. He was one of them artists that the label he was with. They didn't even want to put his picture on the cover of the album because they didn't want people to know he was a white guy because he was a soul singer and he really was hitting it big on the R&B charts and everything. And then when a lot of people found out he was what I call the blue-eyed soul brother, a white guy, it blew their mind because he had such this powerful voice for singing soul music, man. And yeah, it was sad to hear he passed away, 71 years old, and going back to, that kind of reminds me, as we're going to bring it around here and wrap this up shortly, y'all, but it reminds me of part of the reason why doing this show is a good thing for me. I've reached a point in my life where I truly feel like I'm living on borrowed time, man. I've shared, I survived the addiction thing again. I've survived the cancer thing, thank God. I'm in the best physical shape I've been in, since I was a real younger man, and just putting myself out there like this and being vulnerable and everything. Man, not to get too deep on y'all and everything, but, I've shared with other people I know well. One of my favorite books, and I've listened to the audiobook many, many times in my life, was by a people a lot of y'all will know, or a person a lot of y'all will know, who's passed away now, but his name was Norman Vincent Peale. And he was known worldwide as a very motivational speaker, very religious guy, but a very positive message. And in his book, The Power of Positive Thinking, which again, I've listened to the audiobook many, many times. The one message that he had, and there's a lot in his stuff that always stuck with me that I remember, was him saying the key to happiness is to live a purposeful life. What is your purpose? Let's face it, man. We all fucking struggle with, having a good positive attitude at different times in our life. Mental health, it really does have a stigma attached to it for some reason. I don't fucking get it. We all go through shit. I love that. If talking about another motivational speaker, what's his name? David Coggins, I think it is, the ex Navy SEAL and bodybuilder guy. He said that he really found the light for himself when he finally realized that everybody is fucked up. Some people are just better at hiding it than others, but that we're all mentally fucked up one way or another. And once he figured that out and quit plussing and minusing other people in his life, that he was able to really become, his most productive and maintain the most positive attitude. But in any case, where I was going with all that, y'all, is with Bobby Caldwell passing away at 71. I'm 61. I just turned 61 last month, The average life of a guy like me, they say, is about 75, 76 years old. And as I jokingly but quite seriously say sometimes, I know damn sure I've shaved a few years off of that, man. I've always worked hard and played harder. So, if I make it to 70, I'll be fucking amazed. And if I make it to 75, I'll be ecstatic, So the point of everything I was just saying there is, man, if this program, like I said even at the beginning, reaches even one person that we might be able to help with anything we talked about here today on the previous episode and moving forward, then it's all worth it, and that's just kind of where I feel I'm at in my life right now. What hopefully, my purpose is to share my experience, strength, and hope, as we say, in a way that hopefully might help some other people. And so, with all that said, I was hoping we might bring our boy G on today, but apparently he got preoccupied with some other stuff because I see he didn't jump in there. But talking about that last acronym of exercise, when we have G, he's going to be a regular participant in the show at different times moving forward. Not necessarily every episode because he is a busy guy, but he'll be talking mainly with us about fitness. He did tell me he wants to chime in on some of the other stuff we're talking about too, but such a huge part of recovery. and maybe that's a good way to even end the show today, y'all. If you're going through it and you've chosen to, as I've said a couple times now, and as Chris Null says, embrace the misery, embrace the suckiness, and walk through that horror of opiate withdrawals, I promise you can get through it. I promise you can get through it. If I can do it, you can do it. Where I was going with that is one of the other things that, once you get them first few days of misery behind you, get up and move around, the whole exercise thing. It will help. You will feel like you have zero energy, no motivation at all whatsoever. You gotta push yourself, man. Just push yourself through it, because by getting up and getting active, even just walk, man, walk around the fucking house if you have to. Walk up and down the block. Do whatever you can do to get a little exercise, get that blood flowing, because it will help with the mindset, get some endorphins flowing, that whole thing. There's that old saying, a body at rest exerts no energy. A body in motion generates energy, so you won't feel like you have any fucking energy to get up and do anything, but the more you push through it and get up and move around, the more energy you're going to generate for yourself and the better you're going to feel. So On that note, Dean, I think we've come kind of full circle, man. I can't thank you enough for doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff on the show today, keeping us on the air live, and thank you so much to everybody who chimed in the chat room today. We got a lot of great, participation today, and I really appreciate all that. Anything you want to add before we wrap up, Dean?
Oh yeah, just to say, Linda, Lori, Shivang. I can't pronounce his name. Dearmold O'Boyle.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure who that is. I saw that.
Okay.
Apparently,
Yeah.
it's somebody who knows me because they said I'm looking good. And
Not hearing not hearing the name in my head, so I'm
yeah, well,
struggling
you know
with
how
that
it
one.
is. People use different names on
Yeah.
social media. So whoever you are there, bro,
And
I'll
the
look you up.
podcast, Dr. Phil, I want to shout out to you. He's been watching us, and he's a friend of mine. So.
Yeah, looks like you got another friend that just chimed in on there too. How do you say that? Kwaku?
Oh,
Oh,
Where is
Shebang
he?
says that's his boy D that I.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
Quaco. Yeah, that's Daniel is his actual American name. So,
yeah. Well, I want to add this real quick, Dean, if I may, before we wrap up, and then we can bring it around. I
Okay.
really, really do appreciate everybody chiming in live and participating in the chat, and moving forward, we can get people on live on camera or by phone if we want to, and I love that we're doing this live. I'll also say that the live versions of this show are, for me, frosting on the cake. Because when this whole idea of doing this show kind of sort of came to me and decided to move forward with it, my vision was really just doing something like the two guys I described to you, Chris Nall and Gabe McCall. When I was dope sick and scrolling through my phone on YouTube looking for information on how to get through opiate withdrawals, I wasn't finding a lot of good stuff. Those two guys really helped me more than they'll ever know. There's some good stuff out there. Just, in my opinion, quite frankly, not enough, and there's certainly
Yeah.
nothing out there that I found is anything like what we're doing. So what I'm saying is, and Dean, you and I talked about this, off the air, is that what my vision was is for us to do these podcasts so that I can post them on the YouTube channel and other platforms so that they're there. So hopefully anyone who might be looking for a way out like I was might find this program at some point and hopefully maybe find some motivation, some potential practical ideas, solutions to help them get through it. And again, at the end of the day, what we're really talking about is helping them to save their own life, So again, moving forward, y'all, these recorded versions of the program will be posted on the Glenn Victor TV is the name of my YouTube channel. We've created a Dare Me YouTube channel. Dean has some channels. You get the idea. And so on that note, and I know I keep going on, we want to ask a favor of anyone who is watching live or anyone who may see this moving down the road. Please go to our YouTube channel and like it or follow it because that gives us more oomph, with YouTube to be able to stream live and will help get it up in the algorithms and the searches and all. The more interaction with the channel there is, the more the algorithms
Yeah.
feel like it's relevant. So as Dean has here in, graphics, please like, follow, share, do all the things, with the YouTube channel, the Facebook, and all the other platforms. So on that note, yeah, man, I think we've pretty much, addressed everything I kind of wanted to talk about on the show today. Again, just a little teaser. Next week, I am going to reveal some before and after pictures that are going to fucking blow your mind when you see it. It still blows my mind when I look at them like, oh my God, I can't even believe that's me, So little teaser for next week's edition of the show. I will put those up for y'all to look at next week. Dean, once again, anything else you want to add, bro?
I'm good.
Okay, well,
Sound
hey,
good.
everyone. Hope you have a great week. Stay safe out there and keep fighting the good fight. We'll see you next week. So long.
Peace.
All right. Bye.